Well, hi everybody. My name is Cooter Pickleberry. This is FloridaMan Cooking. Today we're going to make a meatloaf. You know, it's one of those iconic American dishes. Everybody's mom made one. They're good. This is good. It's easy. Just takes a few minutes to prep and then just sits in the oven for an hour. So let's get going. We're starting with about a cup of onion. We're just going to kind of brown that up a little bit, let it start to caramelize. Just 6 or 7 minutes on like medium-low heat. Nothing too dramatic. That's a good base for this. If you leave the onion uncooked, you can do that. It still cooks in the meatloaf. It just tastes a little bit better this way, I think. Okay, so in this bowl we got about a pound, maybe a little bit more of ground chuck, which is 80-20, and then a pound of pork sausage. I like just using ground pork better, but I couldn't find any at the store today, so I just bought a roll, and we're going to throw that in there. The onions are slightly caramelized and certainly soft, so we're going to throw those in. We just got a bunch of ingredients to mix up, which we'll do now. So I got a little bit of fresh Italian parsley. This is garlic, salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning. And of course, the recipe will all be in the description below if you're trying to keep up on quantities. Some panko breadcrumbs. Some egg fresh from the yard ladies. A lot of people ask why it's orange. It's because they eat bugs and scraps and leftover dinner. They don't get a whole lot of commercial feed, a lot of medicine, any of that stuff. You get real natural eggs. The natural color form is kind of an orange color instead of yellow, like you think. Throw in just a little bit of ketchup. Some milk. And a shake or two of Worcestershire sauce, which makes everything taste better, except maybe ice cream. I never tried it on ice cream. So now the best way to mix this is to gently stick your hands in there. I'm wearing gloves today, not because I'm afraid to touch meat or egg or anything, but because it's cold, man. This stuff is all in the fridge. This kind of helps your hands from freezing. So we're going to reach in and just kind of pull this apart. Smart guy would have pulled the sleeves up first. I'm not that smart. We're just going to kind of try to make sure every little bit touches every little bit. But we don't want to compress this. We don't want a tough meatloaf when we're done. So we're going to just try to gently mix everything here together. Just about a minute or two, just kind of folding, separating, but not pressing down. Clean the gloves off a little bit, we'll lose it. All right, the next step on this, you can either shape this yourself, which I've certainly done, or you can use a loaf pan. I like the loaf pan idea better. I'm not going to cook it in the loaf pan, I'm just using that as a mold. Problem is, this one's pretty big. I think I lost my small one in a bar fight. Before you put it in there, give it a decent amount of cooking spray. That helps release it when you're done. So now we just take this and we put it in here. And we'll shape it a little bit. We're going to press too much though, because we really don't want to make it real dense. We want it to be kind of light and fluffy. I don't know if fluffy is the right word for meatloaf, but you get my point. So it's reasonably squared off now. It's not quite even, but it's close. And that whole thing goes on a parchment lined baking sheet. And if you're wondering why it's parchment lined, it just makes cleanup so much easier. There you go. It's not bad. So we're going to plop it in the oven for about 40 minutes uncovered, and then after the 40 minutes we'll pull it out, we'll put the glaze on that I'll show you next, and then we'll put it back in for about another 20. Since there's pork in here, we got to take it to a temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. If it was just beef, we'd go 160 or so. But with the pork, we want to go just a little bit warmer. And we'll use a instant thermometer to make sure that that's right. So it's going to the oven now. Let's talk about the glaze. Growing up as a kid, we might use barbecue sauce, we might use chili sauce, whatever. Ketchup seems to be kind of a standard. I make a little mix with some ketchup, some chili sauce, and then some brown sugar. The brown sugar is just to kind of give it that glaze, that little crunch to it. Not a crunch. I don't know how you describe it. You get what I'm saying, like a little sheen. But like I said, no exact measurements. It's a 2-pound meatloaf, so you need a fair amount of glazing material. So there's some ketchup, a little bit of chili sauce. Now this isn't hot. If you want hot, you could always add some cayenne or whatever you want to it. We're just going to do that, and then just a little bit of Worcester, because Worcester makes everything taste better. And some brown sugar. That'll about do that. We'll just mix that up with a fork real nice. And in just a minute, and not a minute, in about 40 minutes. So those big chunky chunks of brown sugar, just smash those with a fork. You don't really want that. But it is going to get in the oven. Now the reason we don't just put the glaze on immediately, primarily, is because there's a lot of sugar in this stuff. And if you do that, you can burn the sugar and you wreck the whole meatloaf. But if you wait the last 20 minutes or so, it warms up, it glazes, but it does not burn. And that's kind of the big deal. Your mama never burned meatloaf. That's pretty much stirred up and ready to go. Okay, so after 40 minutes, we pull it out of the oven. It looks pretty gross there on the parchment paper, but all that stuff's going to stick on the parchment paper when we pull it out. So the meatloaf itself will look pretty good. We're just going to start pasting the glaze on. So, like I said, any kind of flavor you want on the glaze. I often use just barbecue sauce with a little bit of heat to it. This was just the simple sauce I made you. It tastes delicious. Sweetens it up a little bit. And we're just going to baste that on real quick and then stick it back in the oven. For about another 20 minutes. That should bring it up to temperature and stop that, or at least not have an opportunity for the sugars to burn. And then it's going to stick to the parchment paper a little bit, so just work around it with a couple of spatulas and kind of lift it off a little bit before you try to lift the whole thing, otherwise it might come apart on you. You see that works pretty well. You can see all that gunk stays on the paper. And the meatloaf itself looks pretty clean. Most of that fat melted out, which is nice. Let's give it a couple of slices. It's pretty good looking. You can see it got a little oblong on that back side, but not too bad. Let's give it a shot. That's pretty darn good. I like the glaze. I like the texture. Good flavors, good stuff. Thanks for joining us. Come back and see us. God bless.